one of us would come in with an idea and we would develop that together. And songs like To Love Somebody, Words, Holiday, tracks like that, we would walk into the studio with that idea, one of us would. And if we didn't have a song, then we would write that song while we were recording.
Yeah.
So if it worked, it worked. Spontaneity is the key, I think.
Barry, if aliens came to visit the Earth and said, play me one track that would represent the Bee Gees.
Right.
What would you play?
The Red Sox are trying to make it 2 in a row.
Well, I would play them.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dwayne Kuiper with Mike Krukow, just moments away from MVP Baseball with EA Sports. Welcome to an American League game that features the Boston Red Sox and the Baltimore Orioles.
They're already here. What am I talking about? I gotta say it's so great, and I said I can't wait to talk to Barry. And then someone told me that there's now a biopic in the works. That Steven Spielberg maybe might want to be involved, or he is involved.
He is involved. Yes, he's definitely involved. And Paramount and Stacey Snider and Graham King, who did Bohemian Rhapsody.
Graham King. Look, I'm just saying, if you guys need someone to play you and Robin, I have an idea, and I just
play both of them.
I'm just saying, I work cheap, Barry. I work cheap, by the way.
Jimmy, please send me that picture. Please send me that picture, because I have a rose gallery and it's got to be up there.
Without a doubt, I'm sending it to you. I'll have Justin do too. You know, you're hanging on my wall every time I come out before I do a show. You're in my dressing room for when you and Robin stop by.
That silly signature, I screwed up the signature and I thought, and it already got sent. You know, so I remember.
No, it's my favorite. I love it. I look at it every single day. Let's talk about the new record. I love that you're doing this. Greenfields.
Yeah.
Now this is like it's a different move for you. Yet again, another.
Well, I just followed another dream, which was to get country artists that I most admire to sing one of our songs. And the greatest thing could have happened was that a lot of these people said yes. You know, and Dolly Parton in particular, she was wonderful, and Brandy Carlisle.
Brandy Carlisle doing "Run to Me," Little Big Town, Sheryl Crow. This is going to be fantastic. Congrats on this, and please come back if you want to play anything. You know, open invitation to everyone to come to us. I want to show a clip. Here's a peek at the Bee Gees. How can you mend a broken heart? Take a look at this.
Starting on the hill for the visiting team, Pedro Martinez.
When we sing songs like, you know how easy it is to hurt.
Next at the plate, Miguel Tejada.
But they mesh together so well that it sounds like one voice. But it's a different voice.
Terrific pitch there, partner. You put the fastball right where you wanted it for a called strike.
Barry Gibb, everybody. Bee Gees' How Can You Mend a Broken Heart is streaming on HBO Max. Check out his new album, Greenfield, out January 8th. Barry, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you, Jimmy, and please give my love to the Roots.
I will tell them. They're here. I'll tell them right now.
Please.
You're the greatest, buddy.
And to everyone else there. I look forward to seeing you again in person. In person.
In person. What would that be? That'd be fantastic.
On and on and on.
He makes the play.
Barry Gibb, he's a proper legend. One of the best hitters in baseball. Songwriting genius.
Well, I'm always reflecting on my life. It's been a fantastic adventure.
Barry Gibb, with his brothers, wrote some huge selling records for everyone's above. Streisand, to you name it.
I wear everything on my sleeve. I try to be as open as I can be.
Barry is now the only one of his brothers still alive. And I think it's had a hugely profound effect. Tonight he's going to talk about this for the first time, really.
The spotlight goes from the three of us to me, and that's daunting.
Well, Barry Gibb's bringing his guitar, apparently. I'm assuming it's to play backing to my falsetto.
Piers, I'm looking forward to this. I'll see you in there.
We've had some ovations before for people.
Put that pitch right with the catcher called for, and the batter was simply overmatched.
It's wonderful, but you know, there's so many familiar faces here that I think it's a setup.
Okay, this guy is really
I see so many people that I've known for many, many years.
The stats are incredible, Barry, in your career. One of your songs
They appeal to
is
first
played on the
check
radio
swing.
somewhere in the world every 20 seconds.
Well, first of all, that's staggering.
After
I've been a fan all
one, the
my
game
life
is
with so many
scoreless.
different artists, so it's very difficult for me to visualize myself. Never been able to
Jackson
do
up
that.
next.
I love it because I love the song.
This righty hits
You've been top in the
right-handed pitching
charts
pretty
for
well.
over half a century. Writing all those songs has made you obviously
1-0.
staggeringly
tallying
rich.
10 wins
Do you know
and
how
12
much you're
losses
worth?
so far
No.
this year.
No, I know how much I owe. But money isn't the first thing in life for me. It
They
really
check
isn't.
down at first.
I think having fun
And it's 1-2.
is more important than anything else. My firm belief is that the Bee Gees copyrights are
He
worth
comes up a
something I can't
little
even
bit
afford.
short.
Like
So I can't do that.
if I tried
Good
to buy
start
them
to
off
the
you
inning. A
tomorrow,
leadoff
I'd
single.
say to you what I've said to everybody else. It's not for sale. It's not for sale.
one of the
up,
unique
David
things about you,
Ortiz.
Barry, was of course the falsetto voice.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to
on
make you do
first
too
with
much.
no
It's
one
just-
out. Outside, he missed with the changeup.
This pitch is consistent of four-seamer and a decent changeup and an average fly.
He can't get the 98-mile-per-hour fastball over.
When was the
Usually
first
gets the
moment
bat the
you
ball back. He's
realised
a good
you had
candidate for a
that
hit and run
ability
situation.
to sing falsetto?
It was a song called Nights on Broadway.
That is pinpoint
and
control right
Arif
there.
Marden
The catcher set a
was
target
working
on
with
the
us in
corner,
the
and the
studio at
pitcher
that
just
point in
hammered
time.
it
He
for
was a
strike.
producer.
Yes. And he said, someone's got to go out and scream. I thought, well,
The home plate
I'll
umpire
volunteer. I'll
asks
go out
for
and try.
help at
It
third.
was like, scream it out! It just came like
And
that. And
here's
just
the pitch.
kept working it, and everyone kept saying do
He
more of
works
it.
the walk.
I do that
Always
every
seem to
day
come
anyway
around to
for a
hurt you.
joke.
He falls behind
to
the
myself
batter and
and
just
the-
never gets back into the at-bat.
Well, you literally, you wake up and you think, it's just me
I
and
know.
you, Barry.
Back on the outside edge.
As long as I hear that, I know everything's fine.
And the pitch.
I'm not sure everything's fine for everyone else, but
How
Misses
high
with the
can you go?
fastball, 99 miles per
I don't
hour.
really know. Hang on.
This righty has one great pitch. and
It's
he
really a
sticks
G.
with it to get runners out.
Softly
Or maybe it's an A.
ball to right field.
Yeah, I can
He's
skip
got
it.
it for the
It's
out.
amazing. It's amazing.
It's not.
Did you train anybody
This
else?
batter
to
is
sing
nothing
falsetto?
special when
Could
he's
you tell me
facing
how
a
to do
hitter
it?
on the mound.
What's the top of your range?
I have absolutely no idea. But you're about to hear it.
Double play situation.
Go ahead.
The pitcher's got to try and keep the ball down here to force the hitter to hit the ball on the ground.
Out of his zone, that's the ball.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's exactly what you
Is
saw.
there anything I can do to improve?
Yeah.
What?
Two
Don't do it.
balls, one strike.
It's pretty scary. It's pretty scary.
You have
He's
a
around
material
third.
genius for songwriting. Where does that ability
That's
come
an
from?
RBI
Are you
single.
aware of it? Do you have to
He lined
work
that
at
ball
it?
right
I
past
wouldn't call
the
it work
infield, and there was no
because
doubt
it's something
it
you
was
love
facing.
doing.
Good bit
I
of
love
hitting.
love songs. I love all kinds of romantic songs, but I don't find it to be something that you work at. It comes to you, and my saying is, let it ferment. And so I'll wait a week or two, and it'll write itself.
This
It'll come by on
southpaw
its own.
is a
He
C+
wrote
hitter
three
against
number one
right-handed pitching.
singles in one afternoon.
And he
It was
takes the fastball
1979.
up high.
It was Tragedy.
Sometimes you try to
Too
make the
Much
hitter chase
Heaven,
your pitch. That's
and
exactly
Shadow
what you saw
Dancing,
right
which
there.
was younger brother Andy's US
Yes,
number
it's
one.
also correct.
2-0.
How could
Look
you
for the
write
base runner to challenge on a
three
ball hit to
such
left field. His arm
massive
is not
hits?
that strong.
Just a
There's
few
a couple of answers to that.
Fastball for a
One is
strike.
drugs, right?
Yes. Number one.
You're all on amphetamines, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Bloomquist
Yes. You could take a
squeezes
pill
it
and get
for the
high 40
out.
hours, 10 hours.
Tell me about what
Hit
happened.
a nice pitch there to get the fly
We
ball.
were,
Nice work.
we were sitting in the
Stepping
lounge.
in, Mike Lowell.
So
Misses for a ball
It's
with
just
a
the way you feel at that
98-mile-an-hour
moment.
heater.
This dude's been skating on thin ice all day with the amount of ugly balls he's been throwing. Let's see if they're finally going to make him pay.
no one to love you, you're going nowhere. That
Hard to
became
hit
it. We
that
thought,
kind of
okay,
heat.
how do we
99
roll
miles
that?
an
First
hour
of all, it's
for
the
a
chorus.
stride.
You know that that's the center. What's the song
Hit
about?
deep to center.
And that
See, I feel like I'm
That'll do it
almost
as
in
we
the
go
room
to
with
the
you.
bottom of the
I mean,
inning.
it's such a weird, I mean, without the speed, obviously.
Let's do a ballad. Let's write a ballad.
Yeah.
Heading into the bottom of the second, Baltimore trails by 1.
Shank, if these guys are going to start turning the season around, it better get started soon.
Next at the plate, Sean Casey. He comes up a little bit short. He's after the leadoff single.
Barry, as soon as you picked up a guitar, you were destined to become one of the world's biggest stars.
Barry Gibb, the pop virtuoso who's been filling the dance floors and tugging our heartstrings for more than 5 decades.
He's one of the masters.
Hit the other
The
way
most
out to right.
fantastic pop song catalogue in history.
He reaches with a single.
His melodies are exquisite. He just has a very beautiful way of saying things that really touch you.
As the Bee Gees with brothers Robin and Morris, Barry has sold more than 200 million records.
Barry is a
And a
great
strike.
singer,
No balls and one strike.
but above all, he's a songwriter.
Barry and his brothers have composed smash hits for a roll call of the world's biggest stars.
He's on his way to the plate. And the run scores. Safe at second.
Barry is a hitman.
He does a great job of knocking the
Very
run
well
on this.
remembered.
Still good.
Intuitively.
Barry began writing songs aged only 8, and when the family moved to Australia 3 years later, he and his brothers began performing in pubs and clubs.
They were playing in places that had things like dancing girls, and they were backstage, and women were taking their clothes off, and you know, there were 3 young kids.
I don't think they had much time for school.
Barry's talent soon caught the eye of TV producers.
Play between right your own people, Barry. And what are you going to play for us now you come down from?
There are not too many ballparks.
My dad, it just cracks me up. He looked like a greaser. Bob and Morris were just, 2 adorable kids that had these beautiful voices.
Barry, even at 13, he did have a presence then, you could see.
Now called the Bee Gees, the boys began to release Barry's songs as singles.
They then recorded 4 songs. I said, gee, it's a shame we haven't got half a dozen, Barry. And he said, wait a minute, I'll write a couple. And that's the kind of incredible talent he has.
In search of wider fame and now writing together, the brothers returned to England. Within 6 months, they were #1.
That one's driven way back and gone. Home run.
The group racked up hit after hit.
You could be watching TV. He said, I've got an idea. We could do that in the middle of the night. Take his guitar and write a song about it. It's like it just pulls him from the air.
In the mid-70s, the Bee Gees songwriting was about to hit new heights.
What the Bee Gees did was marry their gift for melody with the disco beat.
And when they were asked to record the soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever, the Bee Gees were launched into the stratosphere.
The first time I heard Saturday Night Fever, I was green.
Fastball strike in and at the letters.
Song after song after song. It was so incredible.
It became the biggest selling soundtrack in history.
It changed the face of music.
Saturday Night Fever is as fresh today as it was then.
Martinez delivers the ball.
Falsetto style of singing. It's amazing.
Barry Gibb's voice
That's
is the sound of a whole generation.
By the late 70s, they were the biggest pop group in the world.
We had a private jet, huge stadiums, and the audiences were just going wild.
I think Dad loved it. I think he loved every moment.
It was just a wonderful time. Magical.
Saturday Night Fever.
Third base umpire to Swung.
What was the
Out
impact
number
on
3 and the inning is over.
personally, the families?
For me, the things that changed was don't answer the phone. the things that changed was people climbing over your wall. And the FBI coming to your door and telling you that somebody was to shoot you. You know?
This batter pounds the ball
Not
off
everyone loved
right-handed
this guy.
pitchers.
All of the upsides of it, I love. I
This
enjoy
guy's a
it.
stud.
Everyone enjoys
He
getting
expects to
attention.
be on that mound all
What
the
is
way to the ninth
the
inning
best
every
thing
time.
about stratospheric fame?
Getting
And he puts it away for the out.
wanting something and getting it.
The next
Whatever you
batter
want,
is
whatever you
Lance Berkman.
What was the most absurd purchase you ever made?
It was a Lamborghini.
Strike called
It
at the
went back in
letters.
2 weeks.
Pitches up and away.
Beautiful color. But I
Strike
discovered
with a
that it was wonderful to get into,
His
but I
number
couldn't get
one
out.
pitch is his fastball.
Well, they are tricky doors, aren't they?
And I spotted myself in a shop window trying to get out of it. And I had to roll out of the car. It's just silly.
You developed an iconic
And a
look
fastball
through
in
that
for a
period.
strike.
Barry Gibb. Now, there was an allegation, unproven,
strike and a
you wore a chest ring.
He averages about
No,
4 walks.
none of us, specifically, none of us ever
It's a 1, 2, 3
wore chest
inning.
hair. None of us
After
were
2
aware
and
of
a
it.
half, the
These are your
score
real
is
chest
5-1.
Well, Robin had quite a hairy chest.
Yeah.
I was Baptist school, but
Anderson
it
is
was
next
flat.
up.
So I don't have
there on the
a
mound
hairy
with
chest.
no
I have a
stuff.
fantastic scar.
We've got another picture to show you.
Yeah.
He hits a
Twins,
roller to the
Robin and
left
Morris,
side.
younger brother Andy. And the hair is really going for it here.
Yeah, it's going for it.
What's the look you're going for there?
Windy. But the green pants, Robin used to wear these green jeans all the time, and I often talked about it on stage, and
here's the
always bewildered
delivery.
me. And he dyed his hair the color of his dog. So there's different. He had a red setter, and he dyed his hair red.
As we sit here, you're in a very unusual position of being the eldest of 4 brothers, and yet you're the one who has survived.
strike
and
one.
your 3 younger brothers.
Pitch said, come
have
and
all
get a
died.
big boy, but the batter could not touch that curveball.
What is that sensation for you like?
Swung and a miss at the high and tight fastball.
He's registered 9
Devastating.
wins and
We were
5
a
losses
group for
this season.
45 years. We were glued to each other. You know? So if I
Pitch
thought
taken
something,
for a
they knew,
ball.
and if they thought
Sometimes you
something,
try
I
to
knew.
make the hitter chase your pitch.
It happened with
That's
Andy when he was
exactly
only
what you saw
30.
right
And that was a heartbreak.
Yank
I
to
mean,
the
that was
left side.
scoring for the whole family because the whole family really hadn't witnessed losing anyone. Morris was the next one we lost.
Another
and
single.
I never stopped
Hey, the
thinking
batter
about
put
that
so much
character.
pressure on the defense, we just
Robin's
got
character
away.
was
He
extremely
couldn't get the ball over the first
humorous.
time, so
Morris was
he just
very
held it.
open.
That's a smart play.
And you put us all together, and that's what made it work. It wasn't just about writing songs, it was about singing in harmony.
You've said in an interview that you've had some
Runner on
strange
first
kind of
with 2 outs.
paranormal experiences since your brothers died.
Yeah, yes,
They
they
make the
well,
play.
I saw Robin
After 3
in
innings,
my house
the
in Miami
score
walk
is
across
5-1.
from the front door to the bar, and I went to look, and there was nobody there. But and maybe maybe it's in your own head, but it was Rob.
Did you find that a disturbing experience or a very nice experience?
Nice experience. Like, it wasn't scary. It was just, oh, there's Rob.
Would you like to elaborate on you, Linda, and what happened in Doctor Who's
Inside,
TARDIS?
1 ball and 1 strike.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's exactly what you saw right there.
You were born Barry Allen
Sends him
Crompton
back to
Gibb,
the
the
dugout
Isle of
with
Man,
nothing to show
on the
for
1st of
that
September
AB.
1946.
I don't know what he's looking
Parents
for there,
were
but it
Hugh
wasn't
and
that
Barbara,
pitch.
an older sister, Leslie. You were 18 months old when you tipped a boiling pot of tea over yourself. Is that right?
Yeah. I remember
Swings and
filling the
misses
boiling
for
pot,
a strike.
and I don't have any memory of it after that. According to my mum, she said I didn't speak for 2 years. So
They check with the third
I
base
guess I think I was in
umpire.
hospital for a long, long time.
You were in a coma, weren't you, for a while?
Yeah, but I don't know about it.
We were
They
told
appealed
you
to the
were
third base ump.
20 minutes from death.
He didn't go through the
Well, they
zone
told
with
me
that
that.
swing.
Mum told me that.
And in terms of the physical scarring,
Well, school was a little
It's a full count.
awkward. Going swimming, something was wrong with you. You know, you had this scar.
Ortiz.
which is quite
strikes out.
extensive, isn't it?
It is. My
Next
entire
at the
chest.
plate, Manny Ramirez.
And this arm. See? Yeah, it's extensive.
Your younger twin
Taken
brothers,
for
Robin
a
and Morris,
ball.
were born in December 1949. What's your first memory of those two?
The three of us
1-1
finding a
the
baby
count.
in a stream, in a box.
Really?
Yep. And I remember us taking this baby, floated by, just floated by.
Alive?
Yes.
He's on with
And
a
A
single.
baby floated by you in a
Absolutely.
box?
Good at bat right
Yes.
there.
Do you get a feeling random stuff happens to you, Barry?
Well, we could have just left it float by.
You said that
yeah.
it was perfectly normal, wasn't it?
Well, that's my first active memory of my brothers and me taking this baby out of the stream. And
Saving his life.
I suppose, but we never knew who the baby
From the
was.
second
And we
that
took the
ball
baby
comes
to a
off the
nearby
bat,
house.
everybody knew it was out of the yard.
They took the baby
That
in.
was a
They
shot.
told us to go home. Never heard another word about it. But
Well,
never forgot
I've got
it.
a surprise for you.
Do you see it?
It was me.
Good to see you again.
And on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. You said in an interview that you and your brothers were right
Mahomes
little
takes one
tearaways.
inside.
Well, it was verging on
He
criminal.
delivers.
I mean, we would.
Well, it was criminal, wasn't it? You just didn't get caught very often.
I got 2 years probation.
You did?
Yeah.
For what?
Stealing a mini car
Swinging stride.
out of a child's driveway.
You had to set fire to things. You did brothers.
We loved building little fires. You know?
Setting fire to things.
No.
Well, you would set little
I'll tell you-
fires,
I'll tell
and
you
then
the-
things would accidentally
He's
catch
on
fire.
with a 2-out single.
That's true. we built a little fire, we put bricks around it, behind a whole set of billboards. And then instead of putting it out, we'd just leave it, you know. We used to go to the baths and swim, and we'd go and get our towels and come back down the street, and there's traffic everywhere,
The home
and
plate
smoke,
ump
and
asked
the
for help
billboards
at
were all over
first.
the street, and we'd, oh my God, we didn't put the fire out, you know.
Just a bit
And
inside
there was a
to make
policeman
it 2-1.
standing on that corner right
The
next
pitcher
to us,
does
and we had our
not
towels
want to
under our
fall any
arms.
further behind this
And he
guy,
looked
so
at
he
us and
should be
went,
coming
yeah,
in
he
with
said, we'll
something
catch
across
him.
the plate. Keeping that in mind, this could be a perfect.
Going into the bottom of the fourth, Baltimore
Your
leads
father
by
was a
2.
drummer and a band
Yeah.
leader. Your mum was a singer. So music was obviously a big part of the kid family.
Yeah, my dad had a 13-piece band during the war, and when we first started playing, I think when I was about 9 years old, 8 years old, the three of us started really singing together and harmonizing. Dad
He's
would be the
batting
drummer.
.312
We would
with 8 long balls
get a
and
chance to play
58
somewhere
runs
and Dad would
batted
play
in.
the drum.
What kind of man was he then?
Very
Got
dogmatic.
him for the out.
Very dogmatic. I wouldn't say he could be an angry man. He could be aggressive. He could be a very aggressive man. But
Berkman
at the
should
end
have
of it,
no problem.
by the time
The
we
catch is
got to
made
our
by the
teens,
center fielder.
he had the same
picked that
dream.
ball
He
right
began
off
to
the bat,
realize
camped under for an easy out.
that his kids could actually
Stepping in
make
with
something
one
of
home
themselves.
run,
And
Miguel
then you
Tejada.
emigrate as a family. You found fame
He's there in time.
in Australia.
Hey, that
You,
ball
Barry, were
screaming
a
through
very
the infield until it met his glove.
successful
Great play to save a hit
teenager
right
with
there.
a great voice. You described
Coming
yourself
up
as
this inning,
a
the 1,
rogue
2, and
of the
3
league.
hitters.
Would you like to elaborate?
I don't know if I was a rogue. Did I say that?
Well, your words, not mine.
0-1
I
the
always had to
count.
have a relationship.
With this guy hitting kite, the
Even when I
infielders
was
should
about
be on their toes. This
13
guy's
or
got
14.
some great wheels.
And believe me, I was dumped and rejected more times than anyone can imagine.
One
Dirksen
stage you
hits
had
it out to left.
6 girlfirms when you were either 15 or
He's
16.
got it.
And when I say
The
6
two did
girlfriends,
not
I
bring
mean
his A game
at
in.
the same
In
time.
fairness, you can't be on all the time.
And each of them had
No
been led
one
to
out and
believe
one
you
out.
wanted to marry them.
That fastball was clocked at 97.
Because your little trick
but
was
it's
to
missed for
carry a
ball.
stash of rings in your pocket, ready for use whenever they were needed.
He's batting .281 with 24 home runs and 77 RBIs.
Let the jury know no denial whatsoever.
Pitcher just tossed up a fat one.
What one you just kept using.
Well, yeah. You know.
How many times in that period did you propose marriage?
Every time.
Barry, in the late 60s, you and your brothers shot to fame, and it wasn't just your songs.
They appealed to the
driving
first base
fans
ump.
wild.
In 1967, the Bee Gees were storming the charts, and Barry was becoming an icon.
Towards second base. And he makes a running catch.
At the end of the 60s, the Bee Gees were huge.
Barry looked the perfect
Sometimes things just don't work out
hair
the way
out
you
of
plan.
place.
You opened any of the magazines in those days, and he was
Jackson
always there.
takes one
He
up
was
and out of
always
the zone.
incredibly well dressed. Most guys were a little bit jealous, I think.
And they had good reason to be jealous.
Barry was an incredibly good-looking young man. Every female in the world fell in love with him.
Barry Gibb was like Prince Valiant. He just stood there, and people screamed in excitement.
I think he loved it, being the sexiest man alive. Morris and Robin loved it too, but yeah, maybe Dad milked it a little more.
But Barry was keeping a secret from his swooning fans. He was already married. Aged 19, he'd wed his teenage sweetheart Maureen in Australia before moving to England.
She was his first real love in Australia. He told me it just seemed like the thing to do because back then people fell in love young, got married young.
Barry's passion for his career drove the couple apart.
The music took over everything in his life, and he just didn't really have anything to give to a relationship at that time. And he was so young.
He separated from Maureen.
There was still, you know, so much for him in his mind that he needed to achieve.
On September the 21st, 1967, the Bee Gees were on TV with their first #1 single. In Massachusetts. That night, Barry's life would change in more ways than one.
It was the Bee Gees' first performance on Top of the Pops.
The girls I
have a left-hander getting ready in the pen.
That guy is so handsome.
Mom was Miss Edinburgh, and
stepping in,
she was a good-looking girl.
Their eyes met, you know.
He's looking at you, and I said, no, he's not. And they said, oh, he's coming over.
I think for Dad, yeah, he'll always say it was love at first sight.
He asked me if I'd like to go for a cup of tea.
For the end of the day, I think they were making out in Dr. Who's phone booth.
They appeal to first on the check swing.
Damn attractive.
Barry and Linda became an item, but the course of true love didn't always run smoothly.
God, he had women left, right, center if he wanted.
Third out, we go to the bottom of the inning. After 4.5, the score is 6-5.
I still don't know.
Next up, Willie
Why I was the
Bloomquist.
one, but I'm glad I am.
Even Barry's mum was aware of his reputation.
When he told his mum and dad, oh, this is Linda, we're going to get married. And I'm in the kitchen with her, and she said, don't be silly, love. She said, he says that to all the girls.
VIP transport for very important pop star Barry Gibb.
Despite his mum's skepticism, Barry did tie the knot with Linda.
Pitch misses.
He's getting married to 20-year-old Linda Gray. Linda's a former Miss Edinburgh.
They've now been together for nearly 50 years.
He is the, you know, epitome of the doting husband.
And still, they love each other today, just like they did then. They're very romantic.
The outfielder.
Anybody else would put up with him, actually. Or me.
He's on first with a base hit. The Orioles are getting their bullpen ready.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
I can see you shaking.
No out.
I can see you gesticulating. Clearly, the torrent of revelations there was taking you by surprise, Barry Gibb.
It's amazing.
Was it love at first sight?
I think it was. I think the man in I thought, that's the one I'm going to come around.
What was it about Linda? Really
Well, she's a very, very special person, and it's not how one looks or you know. She's just so full of love and full of fun, and she has a great sense of humour, and we tend to laugh a lot more at everything around us than we could find anything again.
Action in the bullpen. The manager's acted by
Yes,
the
she did.
time.
You didn't know she was doing an interview.
Slow down and refocus.
No, I did
do
not.
now,
No, I did not. But look at my daughter.
Yeah.
She's incredible. They're both
And here comes the hook. They're calling for a reliever.
Would you like to elaborate on you, Linda, and what happened in Doctor Who's TARDIS?
Yeah, that won't be. We had a cuddle. And yes.
The pitch is
given what you told us about what went on in Australia, I find it very hard to get.
No, she was very
Makes
good.
the catch to record
and she
the
wasn't going
out.
to have any nonsense from me.
When did you
Stepping up to the plate with a single already,
I
Sean
think that's close
Casey.
Eaton Square. No?
This is great. This is absolutely great.
Will you tell us?
Adams Road. Then you went to America with Robert Morris.
Right.
I'll leave you to the interview.
Thank you for that.
Do you remember how you proposed?
No.
How did he propose?
Taken for a ball.
He did get down on one knee.
I did get down on one knee.
He did.
Yeah. Can't do that now. Oh, be able to get up.
He swung right through it. Looked like he was right on it. But,
suggested
it looked like he was
you
swinging
were
a sword.
a bit of a naughty boy.
I was naughty. I was naughty bloke. I haven't quite settled it, you know. And I was still in that realm of what I'm glad.
He hits it over towards second.
Was that before or after you
There's
got married?
another single.
Oh no, it's before we
Greg
got
Hicks had a knack for finding holes in hitting base
and
hits.
you know, she can't talk, believe me.
The delivery.
No,
The third baseman.
Great
Out
relationship.
number 3.
Amazing
Side
marriage.
retired.
5 children, 8 grandchildren.
After 5 innings, the score is 7-6.
I love you.
The bottom of the order is up next.
You got drunk with Michael Jackson?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
And a strike.
You've had many famous pals over the years. One of your close friends was Michael Jackson.
Yes. He used to call me up. He would say, can you sing How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? Just sing a bit of it for me.
Michael Jackson used to call you. I get you to sing How Do You Mend a Broken Heart.
Yeah. And
pitch
what would you do?
to
Sing
left
it?
field.
Yeah.
And he used to
The
drink
catch is made.
Oh, yeah.
The Orioles have some pitchers up in the bullpen.
You get drunk with Michael Jackson?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
The next batter
I
is
think
Mike
mainly
Lowell.
Saki. Because we
Saki?
both love Saki. And,
Japanese wine?
Yeah.
You and he would get drunk on Japanese wine?
Out of the zone, that's a ball.
It's just so weird and random. What else would you do?
Nothing.
The
We'd
inside
sing.
out's the pitch to
play
the right
music.
side.
Your son actually told us
Three,
Michael wants
and the
to
inning is
accompany you
over.
to see one of his school plays.
After 5.5,
Instead of
Baltimore leads
Michael
by
dressing
1.
down, he just went for it. You know, the shades and the braid. He gets out the car and takes himself and goes, where's your shades? I can't wear shades. This is my kid's school. And so you sit at the back and watch everything. Kids on the stage are going,
No doubt about that. You can see
they're not saying it, they're mouthing it. You know.
this guy's really locked in.
You've had huge success as a performer and as a songwriter, and your brothers have been with you every step of the way.
By the late 1970s, Barry and his brothers Robin and Morris were at the peak of their powers.
The three of them had a very different sound, and when they sang together, the blend was unlike anything else.
The love they had for one another, watching them on stage, you felt it.
They were very much together. They laughed a lot.
Then to go to the mic and go,
Max got some dynamite in his office.
He's on
Dan
with a
and
single.
Robin both very strong personalities and highly competitive. Morris really was kind of united and kind of brought everybody together a lot.
And it was time to bring another member of the Gibb family centre stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, our brother Andy.
12 years Barry's junior, Andy had been too young to join the Bee Gees. When he turned 19, he became a star in his own right, with 3 US number ones which Barry co-wrote and produced.
He looked like Barry. He sounded like Barry.
Dad and Andy were almost like twins. Kind of like two peas in a pod.
Just as Barry enjoyed success with all 3 of his brothers, he also began to work with artists outside the Gibb family.
Just like the
There was no one higher in demand from other artists to write and produce than
Next at the plate, Willie Bloomquist.
Islands in the Stream, sung by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers,
one was
became one of the
smashed.
biggest selling country singles of all
That'll do it
time.
for the Orioles with 3 innings left.
My dad, being such a huge country fan, I think is probably one of the
The
things
Orioles
he's most
go to the bullpen.
While Barry's
New
songs
pitcher,
ruled the
Aki
charts, his
Otsuka.
brother Andy's life had unraveled. He'd spent years battling depression and cocaine addiction.
I remember my grandfather
is up
George
next.
telling me, Andy's gone. And I said, I don't know what you mean. He's
And a
gone.
little low.
And he said,
swiped 40 bases.
he's dead.
Only weeks after his 30th birthday, Andy had passed away from a heart infection, his body weakened by years of drug use.
Everything changed. for all of us when that happened because
sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's exactly
It
what
was the first time I seen my dad cry was at Andy's funeral.
I've never seen
look back, the pitcher and catcher have a
pain
strategy
and
in
heartache
mind.
like
So far, the batters are taking
But
these
I think that drove them back to, we got to keep going. We got to keep making music.
The Bee Gees went on to write and record throughout the 1990s.
They asked the third base umpire to swing. Stepping in 1 for 3.
At the turn of the millennium, the three brothers have been working together for more than 40 years.
I sort of do an arrangement.
There goes the runner.
Morris would very often come up with a chord we did not expect him to play.
In January 2003, Morris had emergency surgery on a blocked intestine, but just before the operation, he suffered a heart attack.
I mean, he was living a very active and happy life. None of us saw it coming.
He went in so quickly, and then, next thing you know, he's in a coma.
1 and 2.
He died 3 days later, at the age of 53.
Here's the pitch.
Morris a lot. Morris was always
Takes the pitch high.
the man in the middle between him and Robert.
The loss of Morris was
3 and 2.
the
Sometimes
hardest
you try to
blow.
make the hitter chase your pitch. That's
Barry
exactly what
kind
you
of
saw
sunk
right
into
there.
what I call a black hole.
Walk number 3 given up in the ball game.
Oh,
Yeah, he
partner,
didn't
that's a
really
terrible
want to
time to
do
be walking hitters.
Up next, Miguel Cabrera.
Okay, the base runner's going to be going home on a ball hit the left field. Scouting report says the left fielder does not have a good arm.
Many blows, but Morris's death was just a devastating, shocking moment in time.
No, it was so quick. I mean, I think that was, after losing Andy, that was crippling emotionally for all of us, for the whole family. And
line drive.
it wasn't something you could understand. If someone can be there and gone
And the
into
run comes home. That's an RBI
He didn't
single.
even really know he was sick. I mean, this just happened out of the blue.
I think he knew maybe for a few weeks something was wrong, and then it became very sudden.
Right now, the defense should be thinking too.
I mean, I
The pitcher
can't
can
really say
really help
anything
out by throwing something low in the strike zone.
that makes
He
any
pulls
sense.
the ground ball
What
to
kind
the
of
left
man
side.
was Mark?
Great family man,
Got him, and that's a double play.
outgoing person, very loved kids,
That pitcher really needed that defensive play
Love
behind
Nigel.
him. He got the double play.
loved being funny, very funny man, very outwardly humorous.
Next up, David Ortiz.
Robin was inwardly humorous.
Morris was kind of the bridge between two brothers who were
Pitch taken.
Yeah, we were always
wasn't
in
exactly
conflict.
easy bedfellows. It's a
No, we were always in
1-0.
conflict. Robin was intensely creative,
Pitch misses.
and between the two of us, wanted the attention.
Changeup misses
And
low.
if we didn't get it, we would compete for it. I think we loved each other deeply,
And he takes
but
the
I
walk.
think we
Kaipi showed a great eye right there. He was
competed
patient,
all the
worked
way.
the pitcher, and ended up with a free pass.
not with everyone else,
The
not
next
with other
batter
artists,
is
with each other.
Manny Ramirez.
Andy
Pitch.
was 30 years old.
Takes
So
the
young.
pitch just
We were
off the
forever
plate.
changed.
1-0.
I don't think we were ever the same.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase
three
your
brothers.
pitch. That's exactly what you saw
Because we've
right
lost
there.
Andy. Especially
And
at
that
such a
equals
young
a
age. And such a beautiful person. Andy and I were very much alike in that we loved the same thing.
Breaking
Morris
ball
and
is
Nolan were
inside.
twins, but not alike. And so they were closer to each other. Andy and I were close to each other. So
He started to swing,
We
but
worked together a
managed
lot.
to stop.
The father took the deaths of Andy.
Oh, broke his heart. And Mum. And I think that when your youngest is always, that's always the toughest thing. And
Ortiz
so
is off.
it broke down. Dad passed away a few years after that, but really from a broken heart. Andy was his
It's time for the 7th
little
inning
life.
stretch.
How did you find the strength to keep performing and recording with all these tragedies happening in your life?
Because performing is the strength. That's the fountainhead for me. Is to be able to perform
time for the
and see
3, 4,
people
and 5
light up
guy.
at a certain song. That's it for me. I do
He sends this
everything
pitch
in my
towards
life to
second
please
base.
myself. I don't do it to please other people.
He reaches with a lead.
That's the most important thing in life for me.
The Orioles have
When
someone
I'm on
up in the
stage,
bullpen.
my brothers, they're still around me. It's always what with Robin Banks or what with Morris thing.
Ball misses away.
sitting opposite one of the most prolific and successful songwriters over there. Hi, Paul. You came up with the explosions in the song Tragedy.
The defense would be wise right here to move in double play depth.
Well, this was not a period where technology was, everything. You couldn't just make something happen. You had to go and create it.
Well, we want to try and recreate the magic of your explosions.
Good luck.
So we have got a mic, I think.
Stepping in 1 for 3.
And we have got the track lined up. So what we need from you, Barry Gibb, is some explosions.
They turn the double play. That's the third double play of the game for Baltimore. With 2 innings left, Boston trails by 1.
Oh, this is a good move, guys.
That was an explosion. That's fantastic. Your mother, Barbara, very sadly passed away in August.
Coming up, the bottom of the order.
She was a spiritual force. I mean, Mum was the one who didn't go to shows,
Takes a
but
pitch
always
just
got
off
us
the
ready to
plate,
go to
1-0.
shows. She discovered us. That's what she said, And of course she did, She said they wouldn't be here without me. And I think that's true.
Barry, after over half a
285
century of
with
making
8
music,
home runs
it's
and
still
60
very much at
runs
the top of your
batted in.
game.
In 2009, Robin and Barry recorded a TV special. It would be the last time they ever performed together.
They had a deep love for each other, but they weren't talking so much.
Nobody sings like you.
So it's like,
we should get together. I'm not sure.
The pair lived on different sides of the Atlantic, and Robin had news he was keeping from his brother.
Dad, he'd seen a picture of Robin in like a British newspaper or something, and he said he doesn't look well.
He brought a picture of Uncle Robin to his doctor, and the doctor looked at him and said, "You better go see your brother.
Right now is where you see the manager's wheels
You better go
spinning.
now.
To bunt or
He
not
said he
to
does
bunt.
not know.
The runner at first is
But
going.
we never knew.
He's out
Only
of
then
the
did Barry learn that Robin had been diagnosed with
Before
cancer.
taking the steal on this guy again, that was one heck of a throw right there.
Man just deteriorate before your eyes. It's so sad.
Dad went over there to say goodbye to him. He was laying in bed
1 ball and 1 strike.
and barely able to speak.
I hope Robin heard everything Dad was saying and went in peace and knew how much his brother loved him.
It was an incredible loss to him. Incredible.
Mahomes looks at strike 3.
Robin's death meant that Barry was the last surviving brother.
Comes all the way back and gets the strike.
My dad felt like he needed to at least go
Stepping in, Mike Lowe.
do something.
I said, well, you have got to give him talent. Get off your ass. Make music.
So Barry did get off his ass and went on tour.
In the air foul, but there's room to make the play.
Him getting back on the road was soothing for his soul.
After
He needed to be lifted up again.
It's everything to me. It's all I've ever known. I don't know how to do anything else. I can't get a job.
The tour was a family affair, with Morris's daughter Sam on vocals and Barry's son Stephen on guitar.
This was an incredible experience for me standing next to him.
Barry had his mojo back and began writing his first new album for 15 years, collaborating with Stephen and his second son Ashley.
0-2.
Writing with them was like writing with his brothers. And I can hear them laughing in there.
And on 3 pitches, he's gone.
And that makes me feel good.
The album, In the Now, won rave reviews and gave Barry a #2 chart hit at the age of 70.
His voice sounds as good as ever. There appears to be no waning of his powers.
Out of the zone, that's a ball.
I think he's just going to keep on going for as long as he possibly can,
It's just amazing that he goes on and on and on. And don't forget, he's a real dad, and he's a real grandpa.
Papa is incredible at what he does. He's amazing. He's awesome.
We like to be silly together. We'll look at each other just sometimes and we'll just make like a crazy face.
We're very proud of you. We love you. We couldn't ask for a better father.
The count is even at 2.
The best thing that ever happened to me Yeah, it's been a wonderful life.
Swinging.
Love you.
Hey, sometimes you make a good
We
pitch.
love you, Papa.
And that was one of them. Big strikeout there for him.
It doesn't get better
One
than
base.
that.
No.
If your grandchildren said, you know what, we're going to form a band and go into the world of pop, how would you feel? Would you want them to?
Yeah, I think you should follow your bliss. I think you should follow that thing inside you that says, this is what you must do with your life. Go for it, believe it. But believe it. Don't have to believe it, because that won't work.
Of the game.
After Robin died, when you look at all that video images of the Bee Gees, there was a three around the microphone, and you said that you could almost feel each other's breath on each other's necks and you're back close.
Yes. You could tell what we'd all eaten, you could tell what we'd all drank. Everything about that human was there around one point.
A three-pitch strikeout.
The sharing of the songs, sharing of the performances, knowing when it was really good and it really worked, and it, in a way it was profound.
With 1 inning remaining,
what we were doing.
The score is 8-7.
I'm always reliving it.
They're
When I'm on
making a
stage,
pitching change.
they're
In the pitch is
still
the
around me.
closer,
I'm never
Jorge
without
Julio.
them. And it's always what would Robin think or what would Morris think. They're
The
just
top
there.
of the order coming up.
And Andy. It never goes
Getting
away.
down the nitty-gritty right now, Kite.
How would you like to be remembered?
Dirksen takes ball 1.
It's one of the Bee Gees.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's
it for
exactly
me.
what you saw right there.
I'm still playing second fiddle, and I enjoy playing second fiddle.
What do you mean by that?
But I can never be the brand name the Bee Gees.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's
I can
exactly
never
what you saw
really
right there.
make that all happen again. So I reflect on it. I love writing songs. I still love doing what I'm doing. But,
Hit to left field.
I've realized that everything stops at some point. No matter who you are,
the catch to
no matter
record the out.
how famous you think you get,
Next at the plate,
you're never aware
Lance
of it.
Berkman.
And it ends at some point.
What's been for
Base
you
is
the
empty
moment
with 1 out.
that when you look back at your career, if you could relive it again right now, which one would you choose?
Taken for a ball.
That was a purpose pitch.
The day we met.
Change
the day I
up
met
off
Linda.
the plate, hoping the batter would go chase.
That one's high and deep. Going.
The greatest spiritual moment in my
It's
life.
out of here.
And to know that I didn't have to search anymore, that here she was.
And the ball just kept going
There's always,
and going
other
and going.
women, and
Sweet
there's always
work
other
on a
guys.
solo.
But this was an absolute certainty, and I stopped searching.
If you thought to yourself, right, of all the songs I've ever written, I'm going to sing one of them, which song would you choose?
Up next,
To love somebody.
Cabrera.
To love somebody. Because it's always been a joy to do, a clear, emotional message.
When you sing it now, who do you think about?
Here comes the first pitch of the at-bat.
There's only one
He
person.
swiped 22 bases.
Well, Barry, it's been a remarkable experience to go through your extraordinary life. To love somebody might be a perfect way to finish the interview.
Down
Let's
goes
see if I
on
can do it.
strike.
I got somebody anyway.
Hey, sometimes you make a good pitch, and that was one big strikeout there.
Everybody say to do each and every little thing. But what good does it bring
0-1.
if I ain't got you? Hey, now,
It's hit out to center.
hey, you don't know what
Third
it's
out, we go
like.
to the bottom of the inning.
Baby,
After 8
you
down, it's
don't
tied
know
at 8.
what it's like to love
Next
someone,
up, Miguel Tejada.
to love
He's a guy
someone.
who's been known to struggle at times against
Baby,
right-handed
I
pitching.
love.
This is a good move, Kyle, because right-handed hitters have some trouble picking up off-speed pitches from right-handed pitchers.
Beautiful.
Very good.
First pitch.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Kipe. He was able to get ahead in the count. The batter never caught up. Good striking.
Hi, I'm Morris Gibb. This is Barry Gibb.
I'm Robin Gibb, and we're the Bee Gees.
They changed the face of music.
One hit after the other and love the Bee Gees.
We're everlasting.
They're creative.
Genius. Wonderful. Truly magic.
I really like the Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees now are icons.
I know of no other creative family that's endured this long.
Can't deny talent.
They never really stopped having hits.
And here they are, the Bee Gees.
We often thought we were triplets at one time because we all had the ultimate goal of just singing together.
I feel that what we've been doing all our lives has been our destiny.
It's really about three brothers that always said they were going to be famous.
After 9 innings, this contest is tied.
The story of the brothers Gibb is a roller coaster ride of triumph and tragedy, setbacks and comebacks. And during a career that has spanned more than 40 years, they've repeatedly shown a unique ability to reinvent their sound and reconnect with audiences around the world. Their remarkable journey begins in 1944 in Manchester, England, with the marriage of drummer and bandleader Hugh Gibb to Barbara Pass. The next year, the Gibbs welcomed a baby girl, Leslie, and settled off the coast of Great Britain on the Isle of Man. On September 1st, 1946, Barry, the first Bee Gee, was born. He barely survived his childhood.
I was very badly scalded when I was about 2 years old.
He climbed on a chair and pulled the tablecloth towards him, and I just made a big pot of tea, pulled it all over himself. And he was in hospital for 3 months. He was very, very ill.
My mother tells me that it was about 2 years before I was back to normal again. Those 2 years I don't remember. So whatever happened to me was blanked out completely.
He never spoke till he was 3 years old because of all the pain he'd gone through, you know.
And I think that when those things happen to you in life, what you gain from it is incredible inner strength.
It did make him stronger, more determined. I think that's what really helped to, you know, to make the pattern for his life.
The Gibb family welcomed 2 more sons on December 22nd, 1949, when twins Robin and Morris were born. They were neither identical in appearance nor disposition.
They've always had distinctive personalities. Morris was always very friendly, everybody's mate. Robin's always been a little bit withdrawn and into himself, but when they were together, they were the same.
I was Mr. Goody-Goody. I was so scared of doing anything wrong.
I'm basically a very shy person. I have to really know somebody before I reveal myself, literally.
Robin was a joyous kid. He was hysterically funny.
He makes the play.
He'd always be in stitches. He'd always be laughing. This was the funniest kid you could ever meet.
I like being spontaneous. I like being funny with people. I like being relaxed, but you won't get that right away with these.
Robin always had the twinkle in his eye. And of course, I think Morris did too. Don't forget they're twins, you know, so there was a specific, special way that they all play off each other that only twins would know.
When you're identical twins, a lot of people will wear the same clothes, even later on in life, in their teenage years. Robin and I differ in the fact that we're fraternal twins and we're not identical, but we have the same sense of humor. We have the same love of the same kind of music.
Being a twin, I don't think it's so much having much to do with the Bee Gees. I think we would have been the Bee Gees even if we hadn't been twins. I never thought of me and Morris as separate from Barry. I always saw the three of us as 3 equal brothers.
By 1955, Hugh's band had broken up. So, in search of new opportunities, he moved the family back to Manchester. In the glory days of the Empire, Manchester was the world's cotton capital, one of the great industrial centers. Now, it was a working-class city in decline. So too were the Gibb family fortunes. To support Barbara and the 4 kids, Hugh held down 2 jobs. The house was always filled with music. The boys were influenced by the Mills brothers and the Everly brothers. And by the time Barry was 9 and the twins were 6, they were already singing in 3-part harmony.
There was quite a number of times when my parents and my sister would come in the room and wonder if the radio was on when we were doing that all the time.
Lollipop, one of the songs we used to sing. Lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop.
He studies film, he studies...
At the age of 7, I remember very clearly seeing on television Song and Dance Man. And I remember it hitting me in the head, that's what I'd like to do. And I would just pretend to do that. And it was, I'm looking
Sometimes you try to make a hit
so I would do all this stuff and I'd pretend to be the Song and Dance Man.
The real love of it is when I heard Wake Up Little Susie by the Everly Brothers. And I kept on playing it over and over again. And I kept on hearing these harmonies.
Robin and I seem to have evolved into 2 different leads, and Morris is an expert harmonist, is that the right word? But he would always know where to put that other melody to make a 3-part harmony.
I think it was about a year after we first started it, having fun, that we realized it was what we wanted to do for the rest of our lives. But we weren't sitting down making plans, we were just kids having fun.
The Bee Gees' musical career actually began at the movies. One day before the feature, a boy got up on stage and mimed to an Elvis Presley record. The brothers were inspired to try it themselves.
We went to see the cinema manager and asked if we could get up one Saturday afternoon and do just what that boy had done, you know. And he said, okay. He said, I can't pay you anything. You get paid? And so we got the guitar and the records that we intended to mime to. And on the way to the Gaumont Theatre, we were running, and Morris dropped the record. Those days, they broke.
We were very disappointed. We'd lost our chance, but we persuaded the manager to allow us to go on and sing anyway.
We just did what we did at home. And the kids loved it, and I remember that feeling. It was great.
And we had our first real audience rush.
The count's even at 1.
Wow, this is what we're going to do.
We'd sit up all night talking about what we wanted to do in the future. And we were talking about all the things we wanted to do. We wanted to make records, we wanted to write, and we didn't know where we were going. We used to sort of daydream and night dream and every other kind of dream. We just talked about it day and night.
Walking down the street in Manchester, I remember Barry saying that one day we're going to be really famous. And we said, oh yeah, whatever you say. He's the big brother.
It was like a pact that we made in Manchester, that this is where we were going and nowhere else. That we were not going to detract from this pact. We were going to be famous, come hell or high water. And after the hell and the high water...
As pint-sized rock and rollers, Barry, Robin, and Morris performed frequently at local theaters. To adults in the 1950s, rock and roll was synonymous with trouble, and so were the brothers Gibb.
Barry and Robin were terrors, and nothing stopped in their way.
Now when I think back, I feel really bad for my parents. Because if I'd have been my parents, I would have been pulling my hair out. My father had little enough as it was.
Robin especially was very naughty. He used to light fires all over the place.
Oh, yeah. You mean the flame?
He used to set hedges on fire. He'd light fires under the bed.
Yeah, I was a bit of a firebug when I was young.
We lit a little fire in the field next to the house and it spread. And it must have been in the middle of summer, but it spread all over the place.
I went to look for them because it was getting, bedtime. And I walked through the town and I saw these fire engines and I thought, oh no, I knew who was behind it. And they did, that lots of damage.
So we got to the top of the hill and there were all the billboards burning. Fantastic sight. And there was a policeman standing right next to us, and we had our swimming costumes and our towels underneath our arms, And we looked at the policeman and he looked at us and you know, and he said, you know, don't worry, we'll catch him. We'll catch him. And we sort of stood there. Yes, we hope you do, officer, yes.
Bringing in the righty right here.
And
but
that was the end of it.
The police did come one day and said, look, they didn't say reform school, but they said it could end up to a point where you would have to go to court and be charged and be sent to a reform school if it got out of hand.
I think actually it was the Manchester police that sort of encouraged my mother and father to go to Australia. Take him.
And he said, you know, maybe it's time you thought about emigrating, because maybe these kids, they need more, they need space.
He's been on a tear so far today at the plate.
So, in 1958, with newborn baby Andy in tow, Hugh and Barbara decided the family needed to make a fresh start.
I'd never heard of Australia, just a strange word. Australia.
When you're 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, it's an adventure. This is like, wow, I imagine like kangaroos going down the streets of Sydney and all these sort of adventurous places that we're going to go to, exotic, different, you know.
Oh, amazing adventure. Because that was what was in our spirit. That's why we were always getting into mischief. The idea of what's around the corner really was inside us. So the idea of going to Australia, we didn't even know what that was. But sounds good. Let's try it.
The Gibbs settled in Queensland, a state in northeast Australia known for its sunshine, beautiful beaches, and the Great Barrier Reef. Hugh took a job as a photographer. He bought an 8mm camera, and the brothers immediately began making home movies.
I was filming them. I was always the guy behind the camera. Because I've always been the technical. Barry and Robin, I wouldn't go as far as to say that their videotape, which players are still flashing 12, but it's...
He's gadget man, yeah. Whatever's new, Morris had bought yesterday. It's that type of gadget freak. But you could see it in those days. His fascination with cameras, his fascination with 8mm filming. So in our very early home movies, the reason you see so much of Robin and me is because Morris is doing the filming.
We film home movies of fights and things, and people like hostage taking, or people blowing up the tower. We used to just come up with some daft stuff.
The humour that we have is a very British sense of humour, and it's really been and always has been strongly influenced by Peter Sellers, Spike Milligan, and Harry Seeker. They made up The Goons, which was a BBC radio show when we were growing up.
And it was totally left field. They would come out with lines like, right men, are you ready? We leave at dawn tonight. And it'd be very quick and very sort of weird sort of sense of humour. It was a very dry English sense of humour. And we got into that big time. We loved it.
No, it's always been there, and they always make you laugh. They bounce off one another. Just little things that can make it sound hilarious.
In Australia, the brothers continued their quest for fame. To achieve that goal, they would sing just about anywhere.
We always looked for the best toilets in town.
So we've worked in some of the best toilets, let me tell you.
We'd go and sing in there because of the echo. And there's a great one I remember in Pitt Street, Sydney. No, it was in the park, and it was a great echo. Really long, and it was, we sang these harmonies. This sounded like
The brothers took their act to a local speedway, where they sang between races. The crowd showed their appreciation by throwing coins. Bill Gates, a local disc jockey, was impressed and persuaded Hugh and Barbara to let him promote the boys. As the initials BG were everywhere, Bill Gates, Barbara Gibb, Barry Gibb, Brothers Gibb, it was suggested that the trio be called the Bee Gees. Soon, the boys were heard regularly on Gates' radio show. In the summer of 1960, the Bee Gees got their next big break.
The Bee Gees, Barry, the leader of the group, come here. Barry Gibb and your young brothers. Now, come on, who are you? Which is which? You're twins, eh? Robin? And Morris. Now, you all sing together, eh? And your brother Barry plays. Now, come on up here.
This was the first of what would be many TV appearances over the next few years. The Bee Gees played played county fairs and clubs where they honed their craft as performers. With the act still in its formative stages, show business veteran Hugh became their manager.
My father, bless him, has been unbelievable in our lives. He has been the main instigator of everything that we learned about the stage.
Oh, my old man, the dustman.
In extra
He
innings,
wears the
it's tied
dustman
at
vest.
8.
He wears gold-lined trousers, and he lives in a council.
Even down to little things like when you go on smile, because if you look like crap and you feel like crap, so will the audience. Smile, they'll smile with you. He taught us professionalism.
Now hang on there. You're getting past your prime.
And I was doing the clothes. We used to make all the little waistcoats. And we cut an old pair of evening shoes up to make BG and gold leather on the little things, you know.
Every time I think of Mum, I just vision her behind the ironing board, ironing the shirts.
I've washed and ironed 42 shirts when they were going on tour. Barry wouldn't let me send anything to the laundry. I used to wash them, and I didn't have a washing machine. I did them all by hand, and then ironed all these shirts. So I worked hard.
They'll send in a pinch runner. All looking all pale and sad. Don't kick him in the dustbin. It might be my old man.
When we first started doing professional stuff, we were kind of like a child act doing the clubs in and around Sydney.
You ever see that one at the beginning of Crocodile Dundee? That we were places like that. So to give you an idea, it was very rough.
Working men's clubs and leagues clubs and stuff, where they had slot machines and stuff. You had to have a kind of act that would be entertaining to them.
But we always had to put humour into the act, you know. For years, actually, Robin was the comedian.
Puts it away from
in the club act, and I was the straight man. And Barry was the older brother. It was like a mixture of the Smothers Brothers, I guess. A little bit of both.
Partner, this would be a great time to lay one down.
But we did that because the mums and dads loved it. That's what you work in front of. We didn't work in front of teenagers until we were teenagers.
So Morris would have a tie that would go up, you know, and sort of a tie with an erection, if you will.
He delivers.
Or if you want. But he would do that during the show, and he would do it in the middle of a song, and it would be fantastic, you know, because you'd be singing a dramatic song and the tie would suddenly start to come up. And I think the audience loved that stuff, because it's the last thing they expect in the world. So unexpected humour is the best.
In 1963, their dream of becoming stars took a giant leap forward. They signed a record contract. What made the Bee Gees unique at this young age was that they weren't just singers. They also wrote songs, and their very first release was a Barry Gibb original.
Kiss me once, oh yeah, baby. Kiss me twice, oh yeah, crazy. Kiss me 3 times, the 3 kisses of love, oh yeah.
We released quite a few of our own songs and couldn't get a hit. We tried singing a couple of other people's songs, and we still didn't get a hit. So we thought, well, we'll just go back to singing our own songs, because, you know, if we have flops, at least there are flops.
Tell me that you really care. Run your fingers through my hair. Kiss me once, kiss me twice, and I'm in paradise. Kiss me once, oh yeah.
We'd look at each other and say, we've just made that other step that we prayed that we might be able to do. We've just done our first television show, we've just made our first record. We still haven't had our first hit, but we've made those steps. We were on our way somewhere, you know. We were always on our way somewhere.
At this point, the brothers were supporting the family as professional entertainers, singing adult songs to adults. But their music and their ambitions were instantly transformed in 1964 when Australia, like the rest of the world, was invaded by the British.
When the Beatles came to Sydney, the magic was unbelievable. I was mesmerized by them because they were doing something that we love to do, and they were successful at it.
I loved it because it was so, these were this was a group, and they were singing 3-part harmony, and they were singing it like we did.
The Bee Gees finally began denting the local charts in 1965 with self-penned songs like Wine and Women.
put out a record called Wine and Women, which was literally our first top 20 record. And we gave $200 to some childhood friends, a couple of young girls, and we told them, you know, go into Sydney and buy as many of Wine and Women as you can buy. And the next week we were number 19 on the chart. So, oh, this is how it works, you know. We've been buying our own records ever since. You know.
In extra innings, it's tied at 8.
We were doing television shows, but we were just regular TV acts. We weren't people having hit records, you know. And that was our dream. And at that point in time, our dream was being blocked.
I was totally convinced that the right thing for us to do was to leave Australia. We knew if we were going to make it big internationally, we had to leave Australia and go to London.
Righto, chaps, let's have a check. Blacks? Check. Check. Righto, right. RPM, Morris. Okay. Right.
Just before leaving the country, the Bee Gees recorded one last song, Spicks and Specks.
Where is the sun that shone on my head? The sun in my life, it is dead.
We're going back to England. We're going to break through in England, and that was a far bigger battle than we could have imagined.
Where are the girls left far behind?
We just had blind faith.
The Spicks and the Specks.
There was a feeling inside us that once people had heard us and knew what we were about, they'd like us.
So they wanted to go home. So they couldn't really remember a lot about England, but they wanted to go back. We didn't want to go. We never wanted to go back. But we had to go. So my husband sent tapes to Brian Epstein. He sent tapes to Harry Lewis and Robert Wilcox, people, London management, all these people, and left it at that.
Where are the girls?
In January 1967, the entire Gibb family boarded a ship that would take them back home to England. While at sea, they received unexpected news.
Well, we were on the Indian Ocean and we heard Spicks and Specks had come to number 1, which was very exciting.
Just blew us away. And we're a week out now, you know. And we're thinking, oh, great. You know, the only people who knew it were the rest of the Australians on board the ship, you know, going, hey, great, nice one, you got a number 1.
So, of course, then they landed in England with a number 1 record in Australia. Didn't mean a thing.
5 weeks later, when the Bee Gees arrived in England, the music scene was still dominated by the Beatles, in whose wake had come the Rolling Stones, the Who, and many other successful groups. The Bee Gees were determined to be the next big thing. But their optimism was immediately challenged by a random encounter with another group.
There were these 4 guys standing on the dock. It was night time. It was thick fog. And these 4 guys were dressed exactly as the Beatles were dressed in Help.
They said they were a group. They failed the group and said, groups are out. It's over.
And they said, you know, go back. And go back where? It took us 5 weeks to get here, you know. Once again, it's like the resilience thing. It didn't matter what came our way. It was just another obstacle. Get out of the way. We're going to make it. We're going to be famous.
Before leaving Australia, the Bee Gees had mailed demo tapes to prospective record companies, agents, and managers in London. Nobody was interested, except for Robert Stigwood, who at the time was partnered with the Beatles manager Brian Epstein. Stigwood liked what he heard and summoned them to an audition.
My gut instinct told me that they would be sensational because you can't deny talent. And the talent was so obvious.
We go to the Savile Theatre in London, and downstairs there's like a lounge room and bar and stuff that they have in the theatres. And we set up down there.
Robert came in and was kind of looking a bit like Oscar Wilde.
I've always felt this Davey was the worst for wearing pain, but I'm being kind of it.
They claim I fell asleep, which is rubbish.
He came in with his assistants and sat down and said, okay, sing, show me what you did.
And we did our club act. From even the Peter, Paul and Mary section we did.
We didn't know how we were getting across to him. And then he was sing that we did about 4 or 5 songs. And we had 2 people next to him, and we got out and nodded to them, and they all walked out. And that was it.
They came home and they were really heartbroken. They said it was just a waste of time. They got home about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At 8:30, the phone rang and it was Robert. He said, bring them in tomorrow to sign the contracts. Just as quick as that, and they didn't think he'd even heard them.
Stigwood had heard them and immediately signed the brothers to a 5-year contract.
The link between Bob Stigwood and the Bee Gees was very close, and the relationship was just like that of Brian Epstein and the Beatles. For Bob Stigwood, the Bee Gees were his boys, and it was like a family almost.
And the thing is, Robert loved them and he believed in them. Sometimes a bit of a complex relationship, but it certainly worked.
He opened up the world to the Bee Gees very, very quickly, and I don't think at that particular time anyone else could have done that job. And what's happening to us today is because of what he did then.
Robert Stigwood sat there and said, you're going to do it, and I'm going to make sure you do it. And he never, ever made a negative